All right, everyone, we should be live. We'll make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble, of course, where they have changed their system. So there's no longer a unique URL actually for the live streams. It's just your username /live. So I don't know if that'll affect the viewership at all. People get used to a new system, etc. Almost 140,000 subscribers, by the way, expected with probably at some point this week on the platform. So another big win for Clankdom. I would encourage you, if you're watching me on YouTube right now, YouTube is doing the shenanigans thing with some of its TOS right now with regards to external links, actually. They are probably prepping to kick a bunch of people off the site through differential enforcement. So if you do like the live streams, I would encourage you to follow me on Rumble. You can watch on YouTube right now, but a month from now, I might not be on the platform. Now, we have no clue whether they're grandfathering in the external links policy that they're expanding, so could be a problem. Rocky says the mugshot has to favor Trump smirking or smiling. Yeah, we're not sure that we're going to get actually the mugshot publicly released, though, at this point. That appears to be up in the air. All right, Kitty. Yeah, I've had enough of her for the day after her shenanigans this morning. Why don't you go over on your kitty chair over there? We have Shell Shaver on Rumble saying, good morning. Mrs. Tag, homeschool moms, love clanking. Cam2425IA, morning, Clankdom. Chris 07077 says clank, and so does Nebraska Girl 71. Lots of clanking going on. I like to see it. We got lots to talk about today. Hell, the Trump indictment saga is a twofer for the day. Yes, I believe we're live on Rumble. Make sure. Yeah, we're live on Rumble. And over 100 people already watching, actually. James Flowers, Project Zomboid. It's just your flavor of autism. So we'll get right into the news. Again, though, if you are watching on YouTube, it would be beneficial if you follow me on Rumble. And if YouTube, kicks me off by grandfathering its external links policy, I mean, they might have a problem with the fact that I exist on Gab. They might have a problem. They might nitpick about their competitors, Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey, even possibly Minds.com. It appears that they are preparing to purge a lot of people, coincidentally, as the 24 election begins to heat up. It's a total coincidence. I don't actually think that that's the case. So we'll get right into the news. By the way, links in the description to all those sites that I exist upon. Number one, what to know about the Trump indictment on the eve of his court appearance, of course, from yesterday. Today is the day, April 4th, the official day of Donald Trump going into the courtroom, doing the perp walk and all this other hyperbolic bullshit. They're not allowing cameras in the courtroom, so we're not going to see quite as much from the actual case, unfortunately, as we probably should be seeing. And yes, Lord Zotis, I actually am on Rumble. I can see myself live right now. Where almost 400 people are watching and very swiftly rising. Jesus Christ. Again, Rumble at this point is basically pacing YouTube as far, well, it's outpacing it for engagement. So there's no reason not to use the fucking site. I'm allowed to talk about that right now. How much longer am I allowed to give out links to interesting sites? Hell, maybe YouTube will say archive.today hosts dangerous content. You're not allowed to archive news links anymore. Now, that would pretty much destroy my ability to use YouTube now, wouldn't it? So, here's what we do know, and here's what we don't know. Trump, of course, today, as of this Tuesday, later on, he will be going into the court to be fingerprinted, and he'll be handcuffed and roughed up and dragged down the street. That's not actually going to happen. Of course, he did decide to give himself up peaceably, and he's going. I think he doesn't really worry about the case because he's like, they wouldn't be making this many charges if they expected any specific charge to stick anyway. We'll talk about the dogpiling. I talked about it this morning and the other day as well. We might not get a mugshot. We're not sure. If we do, it might be an unofficial mugshot. Trump might set it up at the Mar-a-Lago after he's done, being arraigned or whatever the fuck is happening. He might go back to Trump Tower or whatever and have a fake mugshot taken and use that in order to pander to people and make money. What's the over-under on how much money he would make off of shirts? By the way, some liberals would probably buy them too. They would use it for the reverse meaning. Probably 10 million bucks, maybe 20. Quite a campaign haul off of that. Donald, know your audience, know your customer. I think that he does. So I think we'll get that regardless of whether they publicly release the mugshot. He will not be cuffed. He'll do the perp walk, technically speaking, because, you know, he has to wander into the court. They don't allow protests, by the way, within I think it's 200 feet of the court. So if someone tries to tempt you, if you happen to be there, to approach the court and start shouting or something, they may glow in the dark, or they're ignorant otherwise. You should probably try to convince them otherwise before they get themselves hurt. Here's my take. There's a lot of unknowns here, and that's by design. The fact you have a sealed indictment, no cameras in the court, which actually Trump's lawyers appear to have had no problem with. So, I mean, it's not so much a cover-up as arguably a strategic blunder by his legal team. I think it would have been better to have the entire trial televised. Trump will go in, he'll be read the charges, et cetera, and he'll be fingerprinted and all that fucking horseshit. Beyond that, we're in untested waters. We do not know exactly how this will proceed. One big problem is that Donald Trump is constantly surrounded by Secret Service. He's got a security detail that is with him effectively 24/7. He only gets privacy to strip his clothes off and take a bath after looking at Stormy Daniels' pictures, or when he happens to be asleep in bed or something like that. Otherwise, there are always Secret Service around him if he's outside of his personal residence at the Mar-a-Lago, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be really difficult, I think, for the system to really explain what the fuck is going on. A majority of Americans, by the way, snap poll time, do approve of the indictment itself. But a much more large majority, and this is actually kind of odd, the overlap among independents, think that it's politically motivated. There are people that realize that this is a kangaroo court trial, but like it anyway, simply because Orange Man bad. That's basically what that tells me. There are Americans out there that are so goddamn stupid that they actually support now politicized trials. So the first news is the indictment does happen today. We don't really have much more information that's available to us. The process is going to be only semi-transparent. A lot is up in the air. Again, this has not been done before in the United States. This is sort of like when they, in India, I think back decades ago, one of the Gandhi family members was serving in office, and they decided to do this to them under similar, pardon the pun, trumped up pretenses. It caused mass protests, actually, at the time. They probably would like that, though. They'd love it if people rioted right now. John, you look younger than David Hogg. What's your secret? Not eating soy products. Get some sun, don't eat soy products, and also laugh and enjoy life. Don't be constantly bombarded with negativity. He lives in hell, I hate guns world, although he claims to be a gun owner. Again, we'll get into that. And is a hypocrite. And so he's aging prematurely because of his various personality disorders. Sebastian Monroe, Cheesehead Clankers, go vote for Dan Kelly. Yes, indeed. If you are in Wisconsin, you need to vote for Dan Kelly for the Supreme Court position there. The alternative is that it goes far left and begins chipping away at the progress that's been done, actually, in the state of Wisconsin. The GOP will, by the way, in 24, lose Wisconsin if Dan Kelly is not elected. We'll call that race as the results come in. King of Biltong, good morning from Antons in Roanoke, Texas. Hashtag Clank Nation. More meat money, I see. Adherent of Lady Columbia, how much darker does it have to get before things actually get better? I'm sick of the constant hyperdepression and bemoaning of people. I don't think this is the end of the USA, but it's very rough times. Yeah, but we've been through a civil war and a depression and other things as well in the past. People will get through this. It's just a matter of how long it takes, how deep the problems go, and what needs to be done to fix them. Nicholas H. Republican candidate doesn't matter because honk honk 24. Yeah, I mean, if you do believe that, by the way, there are some people that say that about Trump, but for some odd reason think that DeSantis would skate if he's genuinely a maverick. I would point that out. Warbalzio sent $4.99. No comment. Thank you very much. Ozzy's Robots. Morning, Sticks. Got a copyright strike yesterday by the RIAA for a few short concert music videos with 15K views. YouTube is in full jihad purge mode. This is why I don't have any third-party material on my channel, actually. I did in the past, but I stripped it all off. J-Glow. He needs to get reimbursed for his travel, his private jet. Yeah, I mean, if he wins, there might be reimbursement involved. That'd be very funny to see, the state of New York having to pay Donald Trump millions of dollars. The Defamation League. The Defamation League's new song, Tovo, is out now. Give us plays and subs. Headphones recommended. So you can check out the Defamation League. Over on Rumble, Sigilstone 17. Morning, Sticks. Some filthy bastard gave me a cold. And I'm slightly disappointed in Trump. I was hoping for a shootout and full-on siege on Mar-a-Lago. Really make the history books. Yeah, that's, again, it's like 2016 all over again. I have to keep reminding people, Trump is not some massive grandstanding God emperor. He's a first-term Reagan-style moderate reformer. You can expect him to play along with the process, especially when he knows in the end they would not be dogpiling charges if they thought that any specific charge was strong enough to likely stick. That's why they've expanded that docket to allegedly 34 different counts, many of which are effectively misdemeanors. I have a feeling on exculpatory evidence being admitted, some of them will be dismissed before they even go before the jury. Where is America? The left has gone full-blown commie. It's unbelievable to me. Anti-freedom and pro-war. Trump indictment is one of the low points in American history. I agree with you. Yeah, the left is completely sold out. They are very much pro-war now. As many times before, by the way, as many people watching on Rumble almost as watching on YouTube, despite the much lower subscriber count. Again, you should get on Rumble. Get an account there, get on BitChute, get on Odyssey, etc., etc. Well, I'm still allowed to tell you to do so. Yeah, now is the time. I've been warning for years. Gnarly66, Sticks, Depeche Mode released a new record. Yes, I have seen that. I saw the first song that they released from it, the music video. It's pretty good. It's not exactly A grade, but it's at least B grade. It's better than some of the other things that they've done lately. So I'm looking forward to looking at the other songs. Matt Jones, morning, Sticks. Just want to say thank you for your base take on all the news. Have a great day, my dude. Thank you. Yeah, the next news story is also Trump related. There is a Trump bump going on right now. I have analyzed it this morning. Right now, Donald Trump now leads by over 22 points in the aggregate of polls against, well, DeSantis and basically nobody else. The also-rans struggle to break 3 points in the aggregate, generally speaking. Pence, who has not announced, is one of the few others that has even a slight pulse. And then you've got Nikki Haley. She's on 4.7 right now. Now, here's the thing. As Trump rockets to the top, and he is rising considerably, it was in the aggregate, he was below 16 points less than a week ago. Now he's at 22. That's the average lead in the polls, and that includes several polls there that appeared to be outliers anyway, in which DeSantis was much closer. And one of them, the Marquette poll, was a packed field poll. You need to cull it down some because some of these people like Sununu is for some reason on the polls. I realize it's not taking much because he doesn't really even have a point really, but he shouldn't be there because he has already said he's not running. Why therefore is Sununu on the polls? Young Kim, he showed no indications of running. He has said effectively nothing about it. Pence, for that matter, who's constantly included in virtually all these polls. Donald Trump is now very, very close to having 50% in the aggregate. If DeSantis does not get in, Trump has won. It is as clear as day. As far as I can tell, there's nobody else in the field who's able to absorb the I like MAGA, but I don't like Trump vote. And Trump probably reabsorbs much of that for the primaries purposes. He then reabsorbs most of the rest in the general as the candidate because people are going to be looking at the other side of the aisle and say, fuck it, no, I'm just going to vote for Trump again. Some of them will be nose holders. Their turnout won't be high, but they will be there. What I would say, though, is there is nobody else in the race. There's DeSantis, as the second wheel candidate, and then there's Trump. That's all that you've got. Right now, Nikki Haley has failed to make a dent in their collective support. DeSantis beats her handily in a one-on-one despite not even announcing a run, by the way. And then you have Ramaswamy. If I'm looking at these polls, the ones that include him, he maxes out at a point. And he's the more valuable one as opposed to Nikki Haley. Christie might get him, but I think that's pertinent on whether DeSantis gets him. That's why he's delaying for that 60-day period. until the end of May, which is when you expect DeSantis to have made his decision. Now, if I was Ron DeSantis, I would stand down, and I'll tell you exactly why. It has nothing to do with animus towards him. Much like some people say, well, I like Trump's policies, but I don't like Trump. I would say I at least like most of DeSantis' policies, and I'm no hypocrite. I can forgive him for the red flag bullshit because Trump did the same thing almost. I can forgive him for the state lockdowns they did have because, yes, Trump did originally encourage them. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I don't have a problem with Ron DeSantis. And in a fair primary, should he win, I would conceive of voting for him. I don't throw the bathwater out with the baby as far as Ron DeSantis goes. My problem is that if you look like there's a 99% chance that you lose, alienating MAGA voters in the process, in the future, Ron DeSantis, who is a viable potential candidate, loses big time. And there aren't a whole lot of other Republicans to take up that slack. Youngkin is a far cry and sort of a whiffly waffly half MAGA candidate. You got Ted Cruz, for what very little that's worth, and you have Kristi Noem and a few others. DeSantis, though, is one of the big ones. And what I'm worried about is that DeSantis will get in. And by the way, DeSantis did actually pass red flag laws, Leah Laughlin. He is the governor of the state. The problem is this: DeSantis being one of the heavy hitters, if he gets in and he loses and he alienates too many populists by having done so, and he would, some of the hardliners wouldn't support him. If he wins, he loses the general because of that. And if he loses against Trump, it ends his political career. He'll be seen as a traitor, as a turncoat. And Florida is a place where Trump also has outsized support. That would be very problematic for Ron DeSantis. And he's a valuable runner-up and could be potentially a valuable running mate, although I think it's unlikely, given their particular egotistical mentalities. Trump and DeSantis are kind of similar there. I think it would be difficult to reconcile a Trump-DeSantis ticket. I don't think that'll happen anyway. My worry is that by him getting in, it just messes up the primary and prolongs it unduly. Trump wins anyway, and it damages him, or Ron DeSantis wins but can't win the general. That would be my problem. I think he should stand down and endorse Trump literally now. That would be the smart move to do. By taking him off the table, there is no other person capable of running a legitimate, viable campaign. Trump is renominated, and DeSantis can then sit back and do something very happy. He can sit back knowing that if Trump loses, he can say, well, I supported him. His fans like me. That's a massive double-digit proportion of the GOP, including in my own state, and they've got my back because I fucking endorse the dude. If he wins, I endorse the sitting president of the United States, and I get more carte blanche for my policies. I may take a few lumps in my state legislature, but then I've got this dude with the bully pulpit stumping for me, and that's valuable, politically speaking. Ron DeSantis effectively has a 1 in 20 at best chance of winning something if he runs. He's got a virtual 100% chance of winning something politically if he stands down. And I don't dislike DeSantis. I don't think that he himself is controlled opposition. I don't see that indicator. I see an indicator that people with severe TDS look at him as an alternative for various reasons, and they're trying to front for him, including the Bush family. I don't think it's because of DeSantis' particular policies, though. I think that all of them simply want a messy primary to stop Donald Trump. So DeSantis is effectively nothing more to them than a pawn. I don't think that they look at him and say, well, this is a president I can get behind. He'll do the neocon thing. That's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it's more about what I said for months and months, which is starting a messy primary. They're afraid of Donald Trump. Otherwise, they wouldn't be dogpiling him with a bunch of charges. And again, I must reiterate, like I said this morning, generally speaking, prosecutors do not levy 30 plus charges against a person if they have charges that they think will stick, unless the person has been egregious. So, you really have to have 30 charges because they broke into the liquor store, they killed 3 people and maimed several others. They stole a car. They ran over a group of toddlers on their escape. Then they had a shootout with police, killed and injured several of them. Then they went into a school and killed a bunch of kids. Well, naturally, you're going to get a bunch of charges. These, though, are white-collar, largely misdemeanor charges by all indicators. You don't dogpile the charges if you think you have a cut and dry case. You add 3 or 4 charges. It's all you need. For a person of Trump's age, if you nail them on even one of those felony charges, effectively, you're giving them a life sentence. They're certainly not going to be able to campaign for the presidency, and it would give an air of confidence, I think, to the proceedings. But that's not what they're doing. Everything points to a kangaroo court, and the people of the United States recognize that. Let's see. Tom Christopoulos, a bit for you and the family. Thank you very much. We're having pizza tonight with black olives and artichoke hearts, actually. So I will use that money to buy pizza. I make it myself. I make my own sauce and use like a pre-made crust, but I sauce it up and try to make it more home style because I make better sauce than fucking Prego or Ragu. You should try it sometime. I'm thinking about canning a bunch of it in the future and selling it. The Patriot Chiro. I came to the conclusion that the vast majority of voters is completely uninformed about the Uniparty. They just can't believe they are bathing in lies. Even more pernicious, those that recognize it but stick their heads in the sand because it's too much for them. They realize that we're going full 1984 or Brazil or Brave New World, but they don't think there's anything you can do about it. They're so overwhelmed by the influx of information that they just shut down and they pretend that they don't realize it. Not a bad account. Will New York City lock down in order to quell civil unrest? No. New York City is overwhelmingly leftoid. If there's any violence at all there that isn't glowing in the dark, it'll probably be Antifa celebrating more than anything. They're not going to shut down the city for leftoids. BLM terrorized New York City for days, and they did basically buttfuck nothing about it. Mark Guidetti. Start taking that sweet ad money from the quartering, Tim Pool and Krigler for shilling their coffee brand. Sticks, go get you some of that green paper. I got plenty of income. I don't need to sell coffee. There's an overflooded market anyway. Trev Mill. Remember that time the USA went full commie and stayed that way for the next 40 to 60 years? Yeah, we have some problems with centralization and authoritarianism in the United States. Eric Chung. I just think it's funny that the first president to get charges is Orange Man for an NDA, but not old people scamming Bill or citizen bombing Barry or anything that Bush did or Herbert Walker. Hell, second term Ronald Reagan. There haven't been that many modern presidents who wouldn't be indictable under a normal legal system. We just don't indict them generally. We let Congress impeach them as needed. If the proceedings go through, they're clearly strictly partisan, and then we ignore it afterwards. Yeah, Bill Clinton lied to Congress. Next news story. No Labels Group raises alarms with third-party presidential preparations. Former Senator Joe Lieberman knows better than most the impact of third-party bids can have on presidential elections. His 2000 Democratic campaign for vice president fell just 537 Florida votes short of victory, in a state where Ralph Nader, the liberal activist and Green Party nominee, won more than 97,000 votes. Yes, they're warning about more Naders and things like this. You have what's called the No Labels movement, and the No Labels movement effectively is no Trump, no Biden. They all fucking suck. We want a third-party option. It sort of ties into the mentality you've seen from entirely self-serving Andrew Yang, who effectively now, a sweaty fish out of water as he has effectively started his own political movement. And I use that latter term in the loosest of terms. Basically, it's 10 people, I think. But he's trying, gold star for effort, I suppose. Here's the thing. Any significant attempt to create a third-party swing movement could indeed have a big impact on the election. What they're worried about, and this is the reason why you're getting this from Washington Post. The reason they're worried is that they're afraid that Donald Trump benefits from this. It would be basically like, Ralph Nader in reverse. Instead of the Democrats taking the victory because a reasonably strong third-party challenger says, hey, this whole system sucks, fucking vote for me. They're worried that Biden or the Democrat will lose this time. Because Trump has his core fans, and of course the partisan fans. The Dems have their partisan fans. There is a much larger independent movement now. If they coalesce behind someone who is more on the liberal side, as opposed to somebody in the hyper-partisan climate that's more populistic or something, Trump could end up winning the election in a three-way race in which the independent candidacy gets, let's say, 3 points or something like that. That's as much perturbation as you need right now. 3 points. That would be my over and under, maybe 4. That is entirely possible for a strong, well-funded independent candidacy to get, especially when you have a vast plurality of Democrats that don't want Joe again. You have far less Republicans that don't want Trump again, and that antipathy is softer, in my opinion. A lot of the anti-Biden stuff comes from the left. Well, a strong left-wing ticket that robs especially the younger voters from the Dem Party would kill a re-election bid, assuming it's Biden. And Kamala would fare even worse. I don't see much in the way of other people. A lot of people think Newsom will run. Well, Newsom has managed California into the ground, doesn't have that home state advantage by having a state that's competitive. He's from California, and I think is a long shot. Biden is, at this point, that is about 50-50 chance he runs. He can wait, though, as the incumbent. He can wait to make that decision maybe towards the end of the year or something. James Flowers, just think of all the 4chan puns Toy can make when people ask for your sauce. Dennis the Menace, will AI devolve humanity? No, it will be both a help and a hindrance, depending on what line of work you are in, mainly. If it's an easily automated job, kiss your ass goodbye. You should do what I've been telling you for several years now and learn new skills. Corey Alexander, this whole indictment is so dumb. He has so many ways to get this dismissed. Yes, number one being exculpatory evidence withheld from the grand jury on purpose. It's so damaging to the country and makes everything he said true. Yeah, I mean, it gives evidence to what Trump's been saying for years now. Hey, they're trying to persecute people for political reasons. Well, case number one, they just indicted me. I'm the first one in 250 years. It's kind of a no-brainer. Kev goes live. Didn't Perot split the vote and secure Clinton a win in 92? That's the allegation, is that he secured Clinton the win. The nuance is a little bit different from that, but it played a role in the election, yeah. And then you have others. Again, you have Nader, et cetera, et cetera. James Willis. Joe's stolen valor Biden, the commander-in-thief. Sigilstone17 on Rumble. I'm looking forward to DeSantis eventually running, because then we'll get Yo Lil Ronnie, and Ron Perlman will shove a whole box of Cuban cigars up his ass or something. I won't get to see it, sadly, because Ron Perlman blocked me from his Twitter feed. I should get a burner like AOC briefly was alleged to have. It looks like that, by the way, is not actually true. It looks like that's not actually AOC on that other account. Ozzy's Robots. If Trump were to win and the GOP takes both houses, who do you think would be the spoilers? Romney, McCain style, if any? Hard to say. Romney would always be involved. Anytime that there's something shady going on, Romney will latch a hold, and Cornine half the time as well. Rocky, 20 years ago, America was in lockstep regarding a candidate who isn't corrupt and couldn't be paid off by the establishment. We get Trump and people on the left just TDS is definitely an illness. Yeah, I would say that TDS is a problem, a real syndrome. The Defamation League. Fact, Dylan Mulvaney is actually the butt wiper frogs after butt wiper dumped atrazine in the water. That's also where they source the water for their shitty beer. Alex Jones was talking about normal dosage. They turned the dosage up to 11. Yeah, I'll be talking about Bud Light piss beer later. Robot Trucker, shout out to Colonel Chris Wyatt. He is a retired colonel and combat veteran who provides commentary on U.S. and world politics. Claudius 1964 on Rumble. Sticks, can you recommend a search engine alternative to Google? Well, I mean, you can use Yandex, although it's got its issues. Sometimes I use Bing. Actually, it's better than Google now. Who would have fucking thought that fucking Bing would come back into style? There are others. Start Page. I would not use DuckDuckGo, though. They are compromised, it appears. There are others that you can use. There's a fucking million of them to choose from. Sigilstone17. This is it. It's finally his time. Unleash the Tornado. Yeah, imagine that Ralph Nader gets in the race. Is he even still alive? I don't even 100% know. Hank on the road. Hola, Sticks. I've spent a lot of time in Central America. I'm always impressed at how you understand the region. You having never been. How do you do it? Well, I was briefly married to a Mexican, actually, many years ago. So, yeah, there's a bit of understanding about Latin America that goes beyond the average Anglo, the average gringo. Next news story. Oh, this is a big one and a funny one. NORAD detected Chinese spy flight before it reached the United States, but could not take action, General says. General Glenn Van Herk says NORAD got special authority to surveil the balloon within U.S. airspace. So you couldn't take action when it was over water near Alaska. Instead, you waited several days and then took action the second that it left the land airspace near Myrtle Beach in South Carolina, I believe it was. And then you shot it down. It was easy to do then, but for some reason it was technically impossible for you to do when before it entered U.S. airspace. Here's the problem. This goes along with another story that has been released today. I didn't bother to link it because I prefer to parse it down, but it is true. Yes, indeed, the spy balloon from China, it was actually gathering data, and not all of it could be blocked by the United States government. And they won't tell us exactly what was or wasn't blocked, or the methodology by which they managed to block what they did, U-2 aircraft or whatever, with interception systems digitally. So yeah, the Chinese managed to launch a balloon over the heartland of the United States, and it gathered useful data. Again, what form that takes, we're not 100% sure, for several days. Why? Because the United States is capable of downing a weather balloon or similar high-altitude device if it's over the Atlantic. That's no problem. We did it. If it's over the Pacific, all of a sudden it's a big fucking issue. or over the margins of the Arctic Ocean. Up there, for some reason, aircraft just have a real goddamn load of trouble doing so, even if you are already begun monitoring the object for days before it entered your airspace. Can you say that this object was allowed to buzz around over U.S. nuclear sites? Now, maybe it was calculated. They're like, hey, China did this. I'm going to use it to fuck China diplomatically and say, look, you're warmongering or whatever. We'll let it over our airspace. We'll block anything particularly important and let it float around. And then we'll down it later as a show of force. But show of force is not really what that portrays. It's more like weakness. That NORAD was monitoring it already before, and that you are telling the American people with a straight face, we're not capable of doing anything about that side of our country in defense of it, is reprehensible. Well, then obviously, clearly you need another military installation off the coast of Alaska or something like that to compensate for the fact that the Chinese are apparently capable of doing this. Guess they don't want to ask the taxpayers for more money. They're too busy sending it to Ukraine or something. Let's see here. Robot Trucker, have you tried Victoria 3 yet? No, because I haven't had really much time to do anything. I've gone to Minecraft a few times and just sort of flying around, exploring, seeing the new game because I hadn't played it for 4 or 5 years. I haven't gotten any time to do any other gaming recently. I'm too busy editing and making money. Drexkin, Morning Sticks. I can't tell you how much amusement I get out of Bolton being forgot about after his announcement bid. That's because he stood back and said, no, I never really announced. That's why they weren't collating him with the other candidates. The legacy media got it right on that one. And how he's the only statistically relevant when lumped in with the rest of the loser under other on polls. Yeah, exactly. He'd probably get as many points as Ramaswamy. The Defamation League. Fact, all butt wiper products are made of urine, both human and otherwise. Lots and lots of chats. Lots and lots of news. Having a good day, by the way. I'm kind of high energy today. And it's not just the caffeine. I just feel good. I guess I slept well. Sigil Stone 17. Dylan Mulvaney is the representative for Bud Light. Makes sense. And I can't read that on YouTube. My apologies. If you're on Rumble, you see what he said. It's fake beer, and he's the most masculine person to ever drink it. Yeah, we'll be talking about the one usefulness, actually, of light beers. Apache, so Cali is open to attack. That's great news. Yeah, if the Russians really do have a tsunami-generating nuclear weapon system and they take out San Francisco, California immediately becomes a swing state, I guess. Ashley, off topic, are the Netherlands treating you well? Might go there someday. I like it here. Yeah, lots of good food. And not just the Dutch food, like pretty much any fucking food around the world that you would like to be available is available even in smaller towns here. And it's cozy. And actually, the growing season is longer than where I'm used to in New England. Eric Basil, Hunter is probably boofing crack as we speak. He's probably stuffing crack rocks up his dick hole right now. Knowing him, he's probably into that shit. Maybe he takes it anally and grinds it up and, Put it up there with a turkey baster. He'd enjoy the insertion as much as the high. Next news story. This generation of kids won't do better than their parents, according to a poll. Now, I wanted to point this out. It is slightly misleading. And this is why I say the kids are all right. Everyone's all worried about Gen Z. Oh my God, they're on TikTok. I'm not worried about them. Look, they're at the very least going to be similar to millennials, a match for my generation. Some of us made it. Some of us have working neurons, despite all the weird shit that millennials really did online too. I wanted to point out, though, there is a huge differential with regards to who is pessimistic about their future possibilities. One of the most pessimistic groups of people, millennials and specifically females. So not the Gen Zs themselves. They're a little bit more optimistic, although they are slightly black-pilled. The most pessimistic single group, most pessimistic are 65-plus women and whites, according to this. However, if you look at the poll, there is one specific group of people that is the most pessimistic by far, and I don't know why their title leaves that off because it's literally fucking right there in their bar graph, with over 60% being pessimistic. Oh, sorry, I misread that. My apologies. Yes, Gen X, actually. I was reading the wrong bar. People 45 to 64. So people that were born like in that boom time, and you got the .coms and everything like that. So, you know, it was hunky-dory with chia pets and shit. Are the most pessimistic almost, and then the very elderly. But that's because the elderly tend to get more pessimistic over time. Females far outstripping males, though. It is not even goddamn close. The number of males who are not at all, who say that it's not at all likely that Gen Z will do well, 13%. With women, it's 18%. And similarly, not very likely, 29 to 37%. That is an enormous gap. I think the gender gap is only outweighed by the gap with regards to individuals that are very old. And the funny part, millennials are the most optimistic. Gen Z is actually middling on their own optimism. It's almost 50-50. In fact, it's literally 50-50. The millennials think higher of Gen Z than Gen Z does. And by the way, so do blacks and Hispanics as a voting bloc, with white people being overwhelmingly negative. Although, again, not as negative as females in general. Now, think about what that means. A lot of those females are the mothers of Gen Z, and mothers and fathers have different opinions with regards to politics and society and things like that. How very interesting. So they're pearl clutching a little bit. I would weigh in this way. I think that Gen Z will be about the same as the millennials overall. All signs point to that, which is, I mean, they survive. They don't get nuked off the face of the earth. I don't think that that'll happen. But they will suffer various hardships because we have a global uniparty system that is denigrating liberty, that's denigrating the world economy and trying to put people in pods. Gen Z, unfortunately, at the moment is too young to understand this fully. I think they will come around in a very, very big and much unexpected way, as opposed to millennials, where many millennials have straggled on in their infantilism. And so leftoidism, basically. They're still stuck in the Obama era where they think hope and change will save us. Clearly, that's not going to happen. But millennials are the most deluded generation. I happen to be a core millennial myself. I'm in the minority in my generation as having common sense, unfortunately. The majority of millennials do not. I get along better with people that are at least 10 years older or 10 years younger than me when it comes to politics, I've noticed. That's not an exaggeration. Let's see here. Liam Sexton, currently drinking a Chuhai Japanese drink while playing Mad Max. Got to prep for the future. Was in the U.S. for a few weeks, and suddenly the expat route is looking better after my military service. Interesting. I support my country. I definitely don't support the people currently running it because they're running it off a cliff. Citadel Stone 17. Dylan Mulvaney is. Oh, I already read that one. The part that I could read, of course. Steve Sticks. Have you heard about mRNA vaccines being approved for use in livestock? And I can't read the second part again. You got to realize I'm also live on YouTube. I have seen that. And yeah, I can't give my thoughts on such an issue on a YouTube live stream. I'm so sorry. I've got to get into doing Rumble only streams or something. If BitChute got live streaming right now, I'd probably just use Rumble and BitChute and cut YouTube out so that I could speak more freely. Next news story, Finland has joined NATO. They are officially now part of the NATO alliance. Some people are saying this is warmongering. It's going to drive the Russians over the edge. Well, it means that they can't attack Finland. What I would point out is that with NATO, if Russia does not intend to screw with a neighboring country and they join NATO regardless, they really shouldn't have much of a problem with it unless they assume that NATO is going to attack them. But Russia is a nuclear nation. It's impossible. NATO is not going to get together, amass the tanks and artillery on the border, and rush the Russians. What you see happening in Ukraine is the result of them not being a NATO member. They're not in a direct military alliance with the other Western nations. Insofar as you can consider Zelensky's regime westernized at all. He basically is like a less powerful version of Vladimir Putin at times. It is not an aggressive stance. Finland, looked at the past, looked at the present, said, well, we'd like to join NATO. We think it might be valuable. Notably, though, Sweden is still tied up in procedures with the Turks. And I think the Hungarians, too. They don't want Sweden in NATO. That's probably a good idea. I would cast aside the Swedes. They don't share a land border with Russia, so it's not necessarily necessary. The Russians aren't exactly going to start landing their troops on the beaches of Stockholm or something. And they're weak. Sweden is a weak nation as far as their governance capabilities go. It's sad because in the past they were very efficient. They were looked up to by a lot of people. In their decadence, they decided that they were going to fuck their own economy. They were going to fuck their own society, succumb to terrorism and crime. Finland relatively has done better. Of course, they just cast aside their leftoid prime minister in an election where what amounts to a neocon party and the actual, the Sivnat party now share power. They kicked the Social Democrats, so-called, out by a significant margin. And so their socialist era at the time has ended. Good time for them to join NATO. They will be able to actually budget for the military needs as a NATO member that they need. Sweden, unfortunately, is not there yet. It's basically a commie nation. Mark Guidetti, multiple Democrat politicians and journos are now saying that drinking milk is racist and white supremacist. Yeah, I've been saying that for years. I love dairy products. Cottage cheese, though, is probably number one. Fuck, I can't wait to make it myself. I know how to make paneer, and really there's only one further step, which is adding salt to the fucking cheese, and you've got cottage cheese, effectively. Nick Ray, you and I are the exact same when it comes to being millennials. Common sense people who get along only with people 5 to 10 years older or younger. Yeah, like Gen X, or even many Zoomers. I've met more Zoomers with more common sense than a lot of millennials. It's pretty sad your generation's so fucking fucked up that, people that are, they're pushing 40 in some cases, they sound like teenagers. Meanwhile, Zoomers are trying to start businesses. It's difficult due to Bidenomics, but at least they're trying. At least an attempt is being made. A lot of millennials they sort of shut down with depression and sat in their fucking basements. This is why I try to white pill people. This is why I tell people to do the self-help thing. Build a skill. It's not too late. It doesn't matter if you've been pathetic. I was a NEET for years after my overdose. Look at me. Build new skills. Do what you need to do. And fucking have some fortitude. You can do it. Just start believing in yourself. No, nobody else is going to do it for you. Nobody else is going to give you your big break. You have to work for it. And that's a lesson that's been lost on many millennials, unfortunately. And it's not entirely our fault. We were told you'd get a good job if you get a college education. People got into college. They got into debt. Then the job market dried up and they got fucked. It is not millennials' fault that we're a crippled generation sociopolitically. But you got to try to change that at some point now, don't you? Ultimately, you can't count on anyone else to do things for you. You have to take initiative. That's the lesson that millennials still, in many cases, need to learn. Next news story. Oh, we've got a hypocrisy alert here. David Hogg. Now, link in the description to this tweet. If you want to see someone almost properly using a shotgun, this is what you should see. Yes, I shoot guns. Yes, my family owns guns. So you're using someone else's gun. You're not claiming that you own this shotgun. I imagine that David Hogg probably doesn't. Yes, I believe we need stronger gun laws. I do too. I think we should get rid of the NFA and strengthen the Second Amendment. So, we believe in an opposite form of gun reform, but in spirit, I guess we agree. Contrary to what the NRA wants you to believe, it is possible for all three to be true. Yeah, you can be a hypocrite if you want to be. See, the problem is this. David Hogg misread the room very badly. not just because of his cringe usage of the Elmer Fudd shotgun that he owns, or that his family owns. Shooting clay pigeons, by the way, very intimidating, David. You really made your point. Here's the problem. You didn't win anyone over by posing with your, shitty ass shotgun. You didn't win anyone over, and nobody who opposes you has just suddenly said, "Oh, he's one of us. His family owns a shotgun. I've got to listen to his opinion on what the Second Amendment means." But you probably did piss off part of your core audience that is even more anti-gun than you. You see, David Hogg has never come out and say we need to take everyone's guns, although that is the slippery slope insinuation of everyone that wants more gun control in the United States. They're more quiet about it. Some of your core fans don't think that a person should be able to own a black powder musket. Some of your fans want to ban ammunition. Some of your fans want to impose a $10,000 tax on every firearm in the United States. Some of your fans think that if you have the wrong socio-political views, you shouldn't be able to buy a .22. Some of your fans have a problem with the availability of goddamn pellet rifles. When you therefore make a video of yourself firing the pew-pew, pathetic and cringe as though it may be to those of us who know demonstrably more about guns than you do, some of your core fans are more ignorant than you are. And they're taking it the wrong way. And you can look down through the fucking comments, and it's great. There are two kinds of comments here. People dogpiling him for being a hypocrite, people like myself, and people dogpiling him because he's posing with a gun. Well, what does this say about school shootings? No guns should be owned. And indeed, of course, if you were to get rid of the evil, scary AR-15 and its cohorts, yeah, you'd see more school shootings with shotguns. You can get a semi-automatic shotgun. You realize how much fucking damage a shotgun slug will do? Or if you put like dragon's breath rounds in that or something and decide to shoot up an interior area, you realize what'll happen when you light it all on fire? That might be a little bit difficult to pass off by your core fan base. He just read the room completely wrong. It's like a comedian walks in. The audience is, a bunch of white crackers from the villages down in Florida, and they start making jokes about unseasoned food or something like that. Well, you'll get laughs. It'll be people laughing at the replay of people booing you when it gets posted online. Patchy, the Trump news isn't really landing on the average Dem. A friend who's a huge lefty thinks it's a huge waste of time when learning what it's about. Yeah, that's why they've pivoted in part to looking at the Georgia case, because, at the very least, that's a significant charge if they choose to make it. Ashley, David Hogg reminds me of the dirty cop from Pulp Fiction. He reminds me of the Ancient Aliens dude with his new hairdo. He made a video the other day. It looks exactly the same. People were also comparing it to a Trotsky. He has a Trotsky haircut now. Makes him look even more pathetic. Trotsky got killed by commies, David. He got ice-picked by a fellow communist for being a dissident or some shit like that. Careful who your friends are, David. Leftists are fickle individuals and like to stab each other in the back, or in Trotsky's case, in the head. And then, of course, we have the throwaway news of the day. Bud Light partners with trans activist Dylan Mulvaney for March Madness. This isn't parody. Now, of course, this came out almost on April Fool's Day, and so people thought it was a joke. It's actually not. And I hesitated to talk about it because I don't give a shit. I don't care if a person is trans. I don't care if a person is gay. I don't care how they dress. None of that matters to me. As far as me, the only thing that I'm even talking about when I address this issue at all or anything tangential to it is kids' rights. I don't care if a person does drag, which isn't even a gender identity. That's fine. Drag shows, okay. You want to watch the sexist minstrel show? You're an adult. That's fine. Just don't twerk on the 10-year-olds. You're gay. That's fine. I don't care how many men you cornhole in your bedroom. It doesn't offend me. I've been on the internet since its earlier days. I've seen some weird stuff, and you don't even register on the weird scale. I support gay marriage. I support gay equality. And by the way, when people have a problem with that, I tell them to fuck themselves. Just expect people to react badly when you wear the crotchless chaps and get on the dildo float and you demand that people address you by certain pronouns or something like that. People will have a problem with that. I don't care about lesbian literature. Yeah, a little erotica. That's perfectly fine. Just don't put it in the school library. These are pretty basic things that aren't really related to gender identity. They're really related to the rights of kids to be left unmolested, and I use that term literally. That's what I have a problem with. I don't care if Bud Light wants to partner up with Dylan Mulvaney. I made a joke the other day. Hey, every Bud Light can will now feature a drop of Dylan Mulvaney's piss. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference in the flavor profile. My problem with Bud Light is really more that it's junk. It does have one usefulness, though, and people point this out. Let's say there's a disaster, a tornado hit your town, and all the water has already been, looted or bought because people need water to survive. There's probably still light beer there. And if you can obtain a little bit of water, you can make pot beer out of it by simply mixing them roughly 50-50, and it becomes potable, very low alcohol water. By the way, small beers or pot beers are still drunk regularly in parts of Northern Europe. I haven't seen so many of them around here, although they do exist. Good luck getting hammered off of it. If you can get drunk off of Bud Light, God bless you for having an underdeveloped liver. I always found that it was something that was more refreshing than tasteful or particularly useful. Back when I was binge drinking a little bit, I preferred Elizabeth Warren's Franzia box wine actually to the Bud Light. At least it did something. That's another thing. I have a bigger bitch about non-alcoholic alcoholic beverages like, non-alcoholic beer. What's the fucking point? Nobody drinks beer for the flavor unless they're a hipster. The Joker, Jesus was a Fed working for the Roman Empire. There are some people who claim that the New Testament in part was designed by the Romans to try to put down Jewish dissidents activity, actually. Ozzy's Robots, where's a DA in the red state to indict Brandon? First, you have to have a case. You could try to do that if you have something actionable, but it's a very long and drawn-out process. Unless there's a rubber stamping process, like in Manhattan. There aren't a lot of red cities, you'll know. Crossover Maniac, the anti-gun people don't think all guns should be banned. They think a leftist government should have guns since we can totally trust them. Sarcasm. Yeah, it's funny, when they talk about wanting to ban guns, what they're really talking about is sending dudes with machine guns to go and take yours. So they're not anti-gun. They're anti-guns in your hands. By the way, they don't think in many cases that should apply to them. David Hogg probably would chuff if someone told him he wasn't allowed to buy the gun that he wanted because the gun was scary to them. He would probably have a problem with that. So yeah, by the way, can I please point something out? I know literally nothing else about Dylan Mulvaney other than Dylan Mulvaney exists and is now a Bud Light poster boy or girl, or I'm not actually 100% sure. Is this, by the way, is this a female to male or male to female transgender or someone who prefers, I don't even know at this point. Fuck, I don't even fucking know. I don't know anything about Dylan Mulvaney other than this. Guess is supposedly an influencer. Where? Again, never heard of them before they decided to guzzle a bunch of piss beer. I don't know, is piss drinking like a fetish for this person or something? Because, again, I literally don't know. Maybe I'm old. I'm showing my age. I'm just out of the loop about what the Zoomers like to watch. But if that's their idea of entertainment, then I'll just stick to the golden oldies, I think. Yeah, all alcohol tastes like shit. I drink for the buzz. Well, no, some of it has an interesting flavor profile, a gin and tonic or something. But by the way, kids, you shouldn't drink. A lot of people became strong alcoholics because of lockdownerism. Oh, Dylan Mulvaney is a TikTok influencer. Well, again, TikTok is an echo chamber. Influencers on there are largely astroturfed, and the outside world generally only circulates clips from TikTok if they're like cat related or they're cringe. So yeah, influencer. Yeah, it's sort of like hey, I've got 100,000 people that follow me on Instagram. That's great. You take pictures of yourself. Very informative. The Joker. The Roman-Jewish wars started in the 60s and 70s AD around the same time the life of Christ was recorded. Coincidence? Yeah, according to Tacitus and others that actually mentioned him. Could be a coincidence. A lot happening at the time. Bara, non-alcoholic beer would be good for designated drivers, I guess. Yeah, that'd be one usefulness for it, I guess. But I mean, again, why don't you just drink an orange juice or V8 or something? I love V8, by the way. Liz hates it. I don't understand how you can dislike V8. It's like it's the juice of the gods. It's like fruit juice, but with, tomatoes. Anyway, I think that I'm going to go offline here because I'm going to be making pizza again tonight, as I stated. Before you go, though, if you're watching on YouTube, please do follow me on some combination of Rumble, BitChute, or Odyssey. YouTube is now preparing to purge more individuals from the site. It is clear as day. It was pointed out earlier by Sargon and others. They're changing the way that they handle external links. They will use differential enforcement to abuse the user base. They're trying to kick another wave of people off that they've been unsuccessful at kicking off before. I have no clue whether I'm on their shit list. They've already algorithmically demoted me, so I assume that I'm at least on the margins of that cutting edge to be shaved off next. So please do, if you like the live streams, I do live stream on Rumble. Shit ton of people watching there, and you should be joining up on all of these other sites. You get onto my Substack too. I promise not to flood your emails. So yeah, I'm going to go offline here and at some point go out to the store to get pizza ingredients, and I make my own sauce because I'm fucking awesome. That's about all. Peace out.